All right, you got two wide receivers that are pretty impressive. Obviously, Deebo Samuel would have to be the more polished of the two. Talking about Deebo Samuel and Bryan Edwards. Samuel caught 59 passes. He scored 6 touchdowns rushing. Like to use him rushing near the goal line, but caught one. And then, of course, Bryan Edwards, the guy that I like as a downfield threat.
Well, the wide receiver position at South Carolina is so, I think a lot of fans, there's so much potential. And we're talking spring ball, and Deebo Samuel is going to be the headline guy that everybody wants to talk about. The way he finished last year looks like we'll see that he had been bothered by hamstring injuries throughout the first part of his career and missed games. He missed a lot last year. It looks like they've gotten that under control with a changed diet and everything. And then so you saw what he could be. He had some fantastic catches, obviously 14 catches, I think about 190 yards in the Birmingham Bowl. So Deebo Samuel's your 1A guy. Now, Bryan Edwards, this is a big spring for him. He started off with a bang against Vanderbilt, had the 8 catches, 103 yards, I think is what it was. And then his production was uneven throughout the remainder of the year. He had a massive drop that if he catches it, he might run in for a touchdown and change the dynamics of that game. And it was an uneven freshman year. So you're looking for him to take a step forward. He should be fully healthy this year. People have to remember a knee injury last year when he entered spring, and that kind of hampered him and limited him a little bit. The third guy that everybody's going to talk about this spring is one of the top recruits in the class, very similar to Bryan Edwards, is Ortre Smith out of Wando High School. Would have been an Army All-American. He had an ankle injury, had to have ankle surgery. Expected to be cleared in the next 2 or 3 weeks to go to have to be full contact during spring football. But you're talking about a guy who's 6'4", who's about 215, 220 pounds, has got a big catch radius, was again one of the top, was the top offensive recruit in this class for South Carolina in his own campus now. So you incorporate him into the group. And then you've got a list of tight ends. Hayden Hurst is a guy that we're going to talk about a lot. You have Randrakis Davis, who looked like he could have been a quality wide receiver last year, and then he got hurt and had to take a medical redshirt. I think the guy that I'm most intrigued to see is Randrakis Davis. South Carolina was committed to Georgia. When Mark Richt left, he decommitted. It came down to him following Mark Richt to Miami or coming to South Carolina. He elected to come to South Carolina. He's got some speed to him. He's about 5'10", 190. That's a guy who could have helped him last year. The South Carolina has options at the wide receiver position. Corey Banks is another kid who, South Carolina flipped him from North Carolina on signing day last year. He played sparingly this past year, didn't catch a pass. He's another guy that we're talking about that could end up having a big impact. So there's South Carolina's got guys already on campus that are very intriguing. That's not counting the recruits they have coming in, Shi Smith and Chad Terrell, this coming summer.
Yeah, Chad Terrell rates as a top 50 wide receiver, number 41 recruit out of Georgia. You mentioned Ortre Smith. He's a pretty premier athlete, top 20 wide receiver nationally, and the number 1 guy coming out of South Carolina, according to 247 Sports. Yeah, you're loaded at tight end in regards to production coming back. Hayden Hurst hadn't caught a pass 2 years ago, came back with 48 catches as a sophomore, and Kevin Crosby, pretty much the same thing, didn't see the field in regards to his filling of the stat sheet 2 years ago, and 23 catches last year. So the tight end, obviously pretty prominent in this offense.
Well, and they've got another young man. They've got 2 guys you got to keep an eye on. Keel Pollard, who was a wide receiver. He's on the shorter side. He's about 6 foot, 6'1". But he's about 235, 240 pounds. He's more of like a guy you can split out. He was the 6A Offensive Player of the Year in the state of Georgia 2 years ago. He kind of had a hard time finding his way onto the field, but they rave about his football IQ, about him as a football player. I expect him to be a guy that to keep an eye on. And then the wild card of the bunch is a young man named Evan Henson, who's actually participating with the basketball team right now, but he's about 6'5", goes about 230 pounds, great athlete, red-shirted last year. This was a kid that they were very high on. South Carolina ended up beating out Southern Cal for 2 years ago, and again, he red-shirted. And this is a young man that is drawn praise. He got injured a little bit, wasn't able to go through a lot of fall camp, so this will be his first chance. And this is a kid who's just a different kind of playmaker than Hayden Hurst or the smaller guys like Crosby or Pollard. I'm intrigued to see what Evan Henson turns into, or if he turns into anything this coming spring. So you're right. There's a lot of options there for South Carolina. Kyle Markway is another guy, more of a blocker, but again, a guy that you throw into that mix.
Will Gunter always getting the job done for us, talking South Carolina football. And if we need him for the entire SEC, he joins us from the all-new early game there at 107.5 The Game. Will, you got to think that this passing attack's going to be even better with a maturing quarterback and with all the options that we talked about at wide receiver. Deebo Samuel's a proven. Bryan Edwards, I know that the performance was inconsistent, but 44 catches and some downfield plays as a freshman. He should get better. The tight end position solidified, and when you compare it to what everything else is going on in the SEC, especially in the Eastern Division, with a lot of uncertainty at those two positions, especially at quarterback, this team could possibly make an even bigger move here in 2017.
When you talk passing attack, obviously passing attack and Will Muschamp are not synonymous. With that being said, look, there's not going to be a lot of excuses this year. And I know that in future segments we're going to talk offensive line and running back, but and we'll get to those. But I'm telling you right now, there's no excuses for Kurt Roper and Will Muschamp in 2017. You have, in my opinion, the best quarterback that Will Muschamp's ever had. It's conceivable. I don't care to spend an hour or 2 hours debating with David Waters or any of the Florida guys, but it's conceivable that Will Muschamp's got the most talented offense he's ever had as a head coach. And that includes wide receiver. You know, Deebo Samuel showing up as an all-SEC guy. Bryan Edwards has got a lot of potential. Or Trey Smith, again, guys that are here for the spring, and that's not counting the tight ends. You add in Shi Smith, who was one of the bigger recruits in the class, who's a dynamic playmaker. You add in Chad Terrell. No, 2017 it's not a make or break year for Will Muschamp. But let's be honest, the offense it can't be bottom half of the league in 2017. It's got to be top 7 or better, because you have all the pieces in place for this offense to take a step forward. And you're right, the passing game this spring is one thing that they have to have working when they exit the spring game April 1st.
Yeah, Tennessee lost a ton of talent to the NFL, and Florida obviously has yet to figure it out on offense as well. The difference there would be that they've been in that position for quite a long time, and it looks like South Carolina has a major opportunity to do some damage. Not making a prediction to win the division, but the situation's wide open. And, of course, Georgia, the huge recruiting class, but those guys are most likely a year or two away from making that kind of an impact. Will Gunter from the all-new early game there on 107.5 The Game. Will, we couldn't do it without you, man.
I love joining you, man. Football, see, like I said, it's a great time of year, especially right here where I don't know what's happened. The groundhog was wrong, or I don't know. It's been 70 degrees. So it's baseball season. Again, basketball season, Selection Sunday's 23 days away, and football cranks up, even though we won't get any information from Will Muschamp. We can get more information out of North Korea than we can from Will Muschamp during spring ball, but we'll see how it goes and learn a lot about this team. I know as we talk future positions, running back is fascinating, and that offensive line is what will dictate South Carolina going forward. So it's a great time of the year. Love it.
All right, Will, I can only dream about 70 degrees at this point, so I feel good for you.
Keep an eye on the Facebook page. There'll be plenty this weekend, probably me sitting on a porch with a cigar and a beverage and a TV out there watching the Genesis Open and basketball, whatever else pops up on TV.
All right, good stuff. Will Gunter, appreciate the time, man.